Thank you guys for joining us today. As you guys know, my name is Jeff Mallory. I'm a board member of the Mentoring Partnership, and I'm also the chair of the Fund Development Committee, as Kristen has alluded to, of the Mentoring Partnership as well. So joining me today is Colleen Fedor, Executive Director of the Mentoring Partnership, David Shapiro, the Executive Director of Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, and certainly last but not least is Sidney Kushner, the Executive Director of Connecting Champions. Connecting Champions is a local mentoring program that connects kids with cancer to mentors who help them think about what they want to be when they grow up. So we're honored that you three are with us, and we'll hear from them very shortly. I think today it's important to recognize these are uncertain and unprecedented times, as we all know. And as we continue to navigate these challenges at the Mentoring Partnership, we simply wanted to take a few minutes to touch base with you all on this call who are both our funders and supporters. You all have been instrumental since our inception in 1995 as critical partners, and we want to acknowledge that you all have been with us every step of the way, certainly supporting our work as we continue to grow mentoring in Western PA. As you may know, as an intermediary organization, we serve more than 150 local mentoring programs, and we've had the opportunity to talk with many of them throughout the community and others in the last few weeks. And like us, they're all working hard to keep up with the ever-changing situation, adapting and truly innovating to continue to support our young people. And we would also like to acknowledge this is the 25th anniversary year for the Mentoring Partnership, and none of us envisioned it would be unfolding as it is at the moment. But we're looking ahead optimistically, and we're filled with hope about the possibilities for creating and sustaining connections during this time and beyond. And so to this point, our partnership has helped us shape who we are as an organization, and it continues to help us as we navigate the challenging situations overall. And we're clear as an organization of the Mentoring Partnership that we are social responders. We're the first responders for young people during this critical time. And that said, we wanted to take a few minutes this morning to simply update you once again about the current state of our mentoring community. And before I pass it over to David Shapiro of Mentor, I wanted to acknowledge as a board member, both myself and the chair, Travis Wright, of the Mentoring Partnership. We're privileged on April the 3rd to be a part of Mentor's national call to check in to see how organizations were doing. We felt as board members that distinct advantage of being in such a call really resonated with us from a point of engagement. But most importantly, we were really pleased and surprised at how much the Mentoring Partnership here in Pittsburgh had done in comparison already to other national organizations. So I did want to give a special shout out, obviously, to the leadership of the Mentoring Partnership and acknowledge that as a true differentiator. And without further ado, at this time, I would like to introduce and kick it off to David Shapiro of Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership.
Well, thanks so much, Jeff, and thanks to Travis, and thanks to all the funders and volunteer leaders on the call, and to those in the movement. These headshots from back in the day remind you of when you used to like shower, shave, and get dressed, and wear pants that had belts. So it's always good to see that there was once that reality. That is not the reality today. As I said on that call that Jeff alluded to, I am sequestered in a bedroom because, like Colleen, my voice carries for good or for bad. So my family set me up in here about 6 weeks ago, and they occasionally come to visit. But I'm really glad to be with you all. Every call on these days, I think, requires a little bit of a deep breath because you don't know how folks are experiencing this personally and institutionally. The uncertainty, the tragedy, as well as the opportunity to be together is something that is quite personal right now, as well as institutional and as well as field level. And I think the balance we've tried to strike, and Jeff, alluded to, that feeling when we pulled all of our affiliates together and as Colleen and Kristen and Michelle and others know, we've done this a bunch of times now, both informally and formally with our affiliates. And these are the times when a network can be at its strongest, right? Because there is both something very individual and different about what is going on at the local level and how that can inform things. And then there are some things that in moving quick and responding to a crisis, we can do nationally to back what folks are hearing about locally. And so that has really been our focus. Our focus has been to be active listeners to probably four main stakeholders, primarily our affiliates who are boots on the ground and know what's going on and are coming up with their own quick solutions and are listening to mentoring programs and local funders and policymakers. To our funders nationally and partners in the corporate sector and in philanthropy and in nonprofits, everyone from, Big Brothers Big Sisters to ICouldBe.org to Starbucks, depending, to policymakers nationally. And then third, to mentors, everyday mentors who just want guidance, and they may not be in a formal mentoring program, they may be, but they want to know how to deal with young people in this time, how to text with young people in this time. They are following the Pittsburgh sort of modicum and innovation of everyday mentoring, and they're trying to figure out how to do that in a virtual space. But I would tell you one thing, and one thing that just rings crystal clear every day, and then I'll go into some of the more boring mechanics of our response and then pass it over to Colleen. But I would tell you a couple things. One, we will have to keep reminding people that we are not only facing an economic recession, we're facing a social recession. And we will also have to remind them that the economic recession tracks with the social recession, just as the social recovery will be arm in arm with the economic recovery. People are not just going to go back out there and trust each other and carry none of the inequities and other circumstances of disconnection and isolation that they had before. It's going to involve trust, and the cultures and nations that have responded most quickly have both made smart decisions according to the science, but have also been places where there were high levels of trust and connection. And that's going to be important for people to trust our schools, our employers. And so that's an important part. So our social fabric and the sort of technicians and movement and field builders and servers that our affiliates are, like the mentoring partnership, are a key part of the center of that social recession and recovery. And then the second thing I would just say is this magnifies everything. It magnifies who we were coming into this crisis. So if we were economically strong because we had great philanthropists and support and position in our community, we're going to be stronger to respond right now. And that's why philanthropy needs to be steadfast and boards need to be steadfast. If we had values that were responsive and showed up for the people we serve, we're showing up now in new and different ways, and we're flexing because we have strength and responsiveness, and we're doing that not to people but with them and alongside them and listening to their voices. We cannot create who we are in crisis. I don't believe that. I believe it only magnifies who we are. And so that's what kind of the mentor world, the one mentor, the national and affiliates have tried to be. So the building block of our response was perhaps the most complicated, but it was all anybody was telling us in the first couple of weeks, which is like, you're telling us to keep everybody connected, mentoring world. We can do that on FaceTime and Zoom, but we know these are not secure and wonderful platforms. They also don't have any content to guide mentors and mentees. Think if you're in the first month of your relationship versus a year in where you might already have a nice rapport. Set something up, guys, mentoring partnership. Set something up. It's got to be free. It's got to be proven, and it's got to be, content worthy. That's a pretty impossible triangular frame to solve. We were able to do it, again, because of a couple philanthropic groups that stepped up pretty quick with us, as well as our affiliates having so much intel on the ground. Actually, today, those of you who get mentors sort of e-propaganda will get something Colleen and team already know about, which is that we've added now a 12 and under solution. So we'll have from 8 years old to 18-year-old virtual mentoring solutions that simply allow mentoring programs to transition either temporarily or for the long term, whatever they decide, a safe virtual complementary platform for their matches to meet on and good content for them to go through that's age appropriate. So, you know, that was the main part of our response, and it's been the thing we've been moving with our affiliates on. A lot of other stuff have been about, you know, navigating paycheck protection program, which Colleen and I joked some, you know, MBA teams did better than nonprofits, but we're trying. We're all trying. And navigating financial issues and philanthropy, and, you know, putting resources out and webinar series, and how to balance staff morale in this time, and again, just how to deal with everything that comes up. And as a network, again, like, you know, Colleen and I were talking about education, where we think there's a real opportunity, because, you know, before maybe it felt like a decision whether you were going to deal with the social network and home life of students. We said we wanted to, but it was still kind of a choice. They showed up to school, take it or leave it. You don't got any choice anymore. They're learning from home or not. They're on one side of the digital divide or not. Their parents are working in grocery stores and are not present or not. But you better know all this social context, or you're hosed as an educator in this moment. And so as we figure out what the next phase is, they're going to need mentoring organizations and folks that understand the whole ecology of young people's social networks, and how to navigate that, and how to build that, and how to support that. And I'm hoping that we have, you know, innovative superintendents, folks that Colleen knows well. And this is why, again, having such a strong local leader, we can't do any of this work nationally. We can be partners to school systems as they try to figure out how to transition to the next phase for young people who are going to be full of, you know, mental health things to process, and things, and parents trusting who their kids are going to, and lots of different issues. We can be a huge partner in that, and we need to make that point at the intersection of sort of socio-emotional learning, distance learning, and inequity is really mentoring in a lot of ways, and relationship ecology and support for young people. But you've got be a middle school mentor to lean on. So much past success in the more normal, I guess, space, that's the strength of the leadership of the mentoring partnership and what it's done. And that's how it stands up solutions quickly. That's how we did it nationally, simply entrusting relationships with partners and being informed locally. Same thing at the partnership. You've got trusting partnerships across sectors, and you're listening to your constituency. And that's what allows us to step up to this moment. And so I'm going to pass it over to Colleen, because I'm just so proud of the way the mentoring partnership honestly is able to step up to every moment. I sort of remember, Colleen, you know, the last time, unfortunately, you think about tragedy, you shouldn't, but I think about, you know, the Tree of Life tragedy, and you and I talking about the response and the idea of drawing on connection and common identity in that moment that could have been so divisive. And of course, your community always figures out how to respond with connection and unity in so many ways. And you're such a part of that in driving on youth and family issues. So I'll pass it over to Colleen. We're proud at Mentor just to be associated with you guys and to have you leading the movement locally. And we're here behind you every step of the way and with you. Colleen?
Thank you, David. So to our colleagues on the call, I just really want to first say to you, you can see why we're so grateful and proud to be a part and to be an affiliate and work with Mentor. What they do to mentoring affiliates, we do on the ground with mentoring programs, and we learn so much with Mentor and from Mentor, and we're so grateful for David's leadership. Let me just open it here and ask if you have any questions of David before we let him move on to his 9,000th other Zoom or GoToMeeting call today. So let me open it. Does anybody have any questions for David?
They're taking it easy on me, Colleen. I like this.
They are.
I used to take this as an insult, but now I take this as a great success when people don't have questions.
So I will say the addition of virtual tools for mentoring program is a national win. All mentoring programs, the first answer when people say we can't talk to our kids anymore is, well, we'll just text them, or we'll just call them, but that's not nearly as simple or safe or the best option for any programs out there. And so your relationship with I could be really, and Mentor's quick work was a critical step in taking mentoring, keeping mentoring in some cases alive, and helping children who would be lost in a lot of cases. So thank you especially for moving so quickly to make that available, and then helping them create the new platform for a younger age, because starting at age 13 was great, but there are a whole lot of kids who are mentored under the age of 13. So thank you for your team for doing that and making that available to mentoring providers.
It's our pleasure, and we're going to keep listening and responding. And the only way we are informed is by you guys on the ground who are doing it, who are on Main Street, you know, watching organizations focus on basic needs and focus on reality. I think, again, those tools hopefully will be strong tools to pivot on when we try to partner with schools or with workplaces, but they are mere tools. You guys orchestrate them. You make them real in community. You make everything we do real in community. We're just sort of happy to listen to you and try to set the table. So thank you so much. Keep talking to us, as I know you will, but to the broader community here on this call, keep funneling what you're thinking through Colleen and staff, and we will try to always be as responsive as we can be.
Great, thank you again. So I just want to, before you get off, make sure you note my glam shot too, because that was when I wore jewelry. So, all right. Thank you, David. I know you have other things for today, but I really, we'll talk, but thank you.
Someday I'll shave and you'll get that necklace back out of the box. Those will be brighter days. We'll get there. See you later, guys. Thank you so much for your leadership. Take care.
Thank you. Okay. All right, guys. So let me just talk with you for a minute about where we are here in Pittsburgh, right? David alluded to the steps of understanding what the field needs, and then moving forward as quickly. If I hear the word pivot one more time, and many of you probably feel the same, but really adjusting to this new normal and determining how can we best serve mentoring providers. So let me just give you a quick update of what we have done. As you would have expected, you know, our first role was to express care, to listen, and provide support to the mentoring providers and their staff and mentors across our region. We began with a survey to understand what programs wanted and needed. The information we got through that survey, through individual calls and lots of individual discussions and outreach specifically to our providers, as well as the information that our national affiliates have been sharing with us, which all aligns and is very similar whether you're in Pittsburgh or Nebraska or Boston. And from that information, we've done a number of things, right? We've instituted weekly online office hours, transitioned all of our meetings are now virtual, as you would expect. And we're continuing to deliver all the same services that we have previously, our professional development meetings, our individual technical assistance, and quality assessments virtually. One positive, I'm always trying to be positive out of this scenario, is that in some cases, mentoring provider staff have more time to focus on their quality review and adherence to best practices and individual technical assistance. If they wanted to work more on evaluating their program, we're able to provide that technical assistance and with targeted specific help. And that's been a plus in this scenario. We do continue to do significant communication out, offering the everyday mentoring weekly tips and strategies, helping people deal with new situations, remembering all the time that adherence to best practices is essential. best intentions, you know, everyone wanted to quickly connect with kids. And we want to make sure and remind people that the first priority is kids' safety, and caring for them is front of mind. Young people are, we fear, get lost in this mix, right? Parents are busy. You've got a whole lot of things on your plate. And how do we make sure that kids know they have someone to turn to and that they can reach that person? So we've also had a significant increase in communication to all of our constituents, mentors, staff, schools, coaches, and we're pleased with the response from that. Lastly, as David mentioned, you know, online, our mentor training, for example, has been in person, and I've joked, many of you've heard the joke where we like to bring you together and have muffins, right? Well, we're realistic in that is highly unlikely to continue into the future. So mentor training is still critical, and it is an essential part of a successful mentoring relationship, yet we expect that in-person training will not return to our previous normal. So we are exploring and adjusting to change and meet the need. I'm so proud the program team began immediately to put turn one of our trainings into a virtual training, which is healthy transitions, right? It's the end of the school year where many relationships would have been transitioning or ending anyhow. And so how do we help mentors and mentoring partner programs adjust and deal with those transitions in a positive way? In the overall scheme of things, you know, if there's ever a time that we felt that we could understand the importance of relationships, it's now. When we more than ever want relationships, we're eager to be with others. We're doing virtual Zoom happy hours constantly. We miss them. We know they're important. Going forward, whether you talk about schools, or whether you talk about in the community, whether you talk about workplace, relationships are critical. I think as we look to the next phase, the heading back in, things are opening, we talked about earlier, how can the mentoring partnership help continue to emphasize and support the importance of relationships? That's what we're focused on right now. So I'd like to, in the interest of time, move forward and introduce you to one of our Just Star friends in mentoring, and just an all-around great guy, friend, amazing executive director, and the founder of Connecting Champions, Sidney Kushner. So Sidney, thank you so much for joining us today, and let me turn this over to you. You're muted.
I think I've done this enough times that I should know by now, but thank you for everything. I promise I will not say the word pivot, but I'll be using my thesaurus. I may use a couple synonyms here and there if that's all right. But for those of you who I haven't gotten a chance to meet before, I'm Sidney, and Connecting Champions is a nonprofit that asks kids with cancer, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we connect them with a mentor for the cancer journey. And our organization was founded because of social isolation being such a major problem for kids who have cancer. And as we all know, social isolation is incredibly scary, and it's really interesting for us as a society to sort of understand what that term means. And for our organization, it really opened up our world to it opened up that world to our world, if that makes sense. But what I will say though is that all of everything that's happened because of COVID-19 has been magnified for children who have cancer. So To put it into perspective, kids who have cancer are only allowed to have one visitor in the hospital. It has to be a parent, and it has to be the same parent for the entire duration of this pandemic. So for our kids, they are not seeing at least one of their parents and any of their siblings or any of their friends indefinitely. And so when all of this happened, and for the hospitals reacted sooner than the rest of the community. So obviously we're no longer in the hospital. We as a staff sat down the very first day and we had a conversation that we have every year, but we had it much earlier this year than we usually do. And the premise of the conversation is, should we exist? And it's a really terrifying question because our jobs rely on it. But we think as a learning organization, it is absolutely necessary for us to determine, are we actually providing value? And so far, the answer has always been, yes, we should exist. And the next question is, well, why? And that's the question that the answer has been slightly different every year. And that's why our program has changed and has adapted throughout the 10 years that we've been in existence. And as we've looked at how the world has changed over the last 6 weeks, what we've obviously seen is that everything our program has been told is valuable, from our outcomes reporting to our stakeholder surveying and internal impact assessments, is no longer possible. So much of what we do relies on face-to-face interaction, and that is no longer feasible, especially for kids who have cancer and are so immunocompromised. And what we decided that we needed to do is step right in and say, how can we make sure that these kids, at a time of their greatest need in terms of social isolation, know that they don't have to be alone? And we've been working around the clock on developing a virtual program. And I will briefly just talk about what that is and how the mentoring partnership has helped us with it, and then I'll pass it back. But for us, what we've done is we have completely flipped our model upside down. So typically, over 90% of the kids who are referred to our program are referred by face-to-face introductions in the hospital. Since that's no longer possible, the challenges that we have are, how do we provide that face-to-face like impact for kids who have cancer in terms of a mentorship experience, but also how do we reach newly diagnosed children as well, which I know with a lot of my peer executive directors is a challenge for us, whether it's existing families in low-income communities that may not have access to technology in terms of Wi-Fi or in terms of cell phones and are difficult to communicate with. For us, it's very much that, plus meeting new families who need us. Kids are being diagnosed every week. So what we did was we flipped our model completely upside down. Instead of meeting a child, asking them what they want to be, and finding a mentor, we quickly pivoted. Sorry, Colleen. I promised you I wouldn't, and it just came out. So we quickly adapted, and we decided that what we needed to do was we needed to reach out to many mentors in the community and ask them to put together 30 to 90-second videos that shares the cool thing that they do, whether it's their profession or their hobby. And we redesigned our website, and we compiled a whole menu of 30 to 90-second videos of mentors who do all sorts of cool things, everything from paleontologists to ghost hunters to yarn creators to readers. And now what the kids can do is, all they need to be told about is, there's this organization, Connecting Champions, pairs you with cool people in the community. They go to connectingchampions.org and they get to scroll through the website. We tried to design it in this sort of Instagram style, where they're able to go on the website, view all these 30 to 90-second videos, and they have the agency to pick who they want to hang out with virtually throughout the cancer journey. And we then put together a few different programs that we can facilitate virtually. So one of them is the classic, like, face-to-face virtual video chat, and especially for older kids, teens, and adolescents, that's something they're comfortable with. But for the younger kids, that's not, you can't really sit in front of a screen for more than 15 minutes at a time and chat about something. So we've also developed a Penpal video sharing program. So we have a 4-year-old boy who wants to be a clown when he grows up. So we paired him with Happy Harry, who would visit him every time he was in the hospital, to pick him up and give him a chance to smile from the comfort of his hospital bed. And since that's no longer possible, Happy Harry now makes Stephen, the 4-year-old, a video on a regular basis addressed just to him, showing him a behind-the-curtain view of different clowning techniques and silly things. And Stephen's mom will share that with him during a time when he needs a pick-me-up. And then the third thing that we're implementing is shared care packages. So before every virtual visit, we will send both the child and the mentor an identical care package for them to have supplies to do an activity together over video chat, but physically. So that could be sharing a passion project, it could be reading the same book together, it could be doing an arts and crafts or a science experiment together. And then we've also implemented a handful of different things as well, such as young adult cancer, peer mentoring, to parent mentoring, to virtual pet therapy, to help navigating the finances of the current situation and having cancer on top of it. And so that's something that brought about a whole new world for us. And right after that Should We Exist meeting, and this is where I'll wrap up, we reached out to Michelle from the Mentoring Partnership, and we immediately asked her, what other organizations have done this before? What organizations know about technology and its flaws, its safety, its access challenges, so that instead of us trying to ask all these questions and reinvent the wheel, we can reach out to these people and make sure that we're implementing, as Colleen kept saying the words, best practices. And that was incredibly helpful. I know the first call we had with Michelle, we had a list of my three employees, probably collectively, I'm sorry, Michelle, we probably asked you about 30-some questions. And every question, it was either, here's the best practice, or I'm going to figure this out either by connecting you with someone who knows it, or figure it out myself. And I know that the difference in anxiety, and I say this very seriously, of my program staff before that call and after that call was noticeable. And we just we immediately debriefed afterwards, and I could see they had a sigh of relief, because this is a whole new world. And I know for a lot of our program staffs, we've done our job, they've done their job because they do their job in such an effective way because they have found a system that works, a system that speaks to their talents, and they're able to day in and day out during with such a difficult population know that they can lean on their talent and the everyday normalcy of being able to do what they do and know that they're good at it. And that has all been thrown out of the window as well. And I've found from an HR perspective, that's one of my biggest challenges, is making sure that my program staff still have trust in themselves, still have belief in themselves, and know that their talents are still being accessed in a world where we can't see the kids and read those cues as much anymore. So that's where the Mentoring Partnership has helped us, just from a best practices standpoint. But to take that one step further from what Colleen was saying, I find that has a real impact on my team's morale too. And so I wanted to say thank you. We're very hopeful that through this virtual program, not only will we be able to help kids in Pittsburgh during their time, but all of a sudden we have been able to offer this program to children in 4 other cities across the country. And that's something that we never would have been able to do otherwise. And so this could be a complete game changer for us from a strategic expansion standpoint too. So it's definitely a difficult time, but one that we are hopeful for. And I do believe that there is still hope for the future. And and speaking with a lot of the people in the TMP network and my peer executive directors, I see all of that, and I need to feel that too. So I hope this call provides just a little bit of it too.
Sidney, thank you so very much. I continue to be just in awe and grateful for you and for the work you're doing. I love the new ideas, and I love the positive look at this. Could be a game changer. More young people who are experiencing an unheard of disease, right? That you never ever could imagine, could benefit from this change because of your creativity, your team's creativity, your questioning. How do we still make a difference? How do we still build relationships? Congratulations to you, and keep working hard. I'm so proud of what you do and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Thanks.
So let me just, let me ask, does anyone have questions for Sidney? I don't want to assume that we do not. So let me open up for a minute here and see if there are any questions for Sidney.
Sidney, this is Kristen. I have just sort of more of a tactical question, but if people are interested in getting involved in submitting a virtual mentoring video, how's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, great question, because we need a lot of those. It's hard for us to predict in advance what kids want to be when they grow up, especially as kids see what other kids are doing. They get a lot more crazy with them. So just like really briefly, if anyone knows any frog breeders, we met a kid recently who wants to breed frogs when they grow up. So it's hard for us to predict what everything is. So honestly, if anyone could just reach out to me directly, or anything at connectingchampions.org goes to me. So it could be friends at connectingchampions.org, volunteering at connectingchampions.org is the best one. But if you don't remember that, just Sidney at connectingchampions.org too. Going to our website, our homepage is where all of the videos are. And what I didn't mention is that we redesigned our website so that it's all geared towards children now, and it speaks U language. So that would be a great place to just like get a sense of what we're looking for, and then reach out just through the contact us part of our website too would be awesome, because we need a lot of help. So if you or anyone you know does something cool, it doesn't have to be your profession, it could just be a hobby. We would love to meet you.
Great. Thank you, Sidney.
Thank you,
All
Kristen.
Right. So let me turn this over to Kristen to wrap us up. But before we do, I just really want to say thank you. David Shapiro regularly says you dance with the people who brought you to the dance, right? And in Pittsburgh, we have been so supported. Mentoring is important. And thank you to each of you who lead the effort to ensure that children don't get lost, and that we take the time to help people engage in their communities and make a difference in the lives of kids. We are extremely grateful for your leadership, for your guidance, and for your continued support, both of the mentoring partnership and of the many mentoring programs in the region. To do what Connecting Champions just did requires staff, requires resources, to change your website around, all of that. And it's just so impressive to see what we can do when we have the opportunity to get it done. So thank you to those of you who have been our friends and supporters and have been challenging us and helping us. So let me turn this over to Kristen now to wrap us up.
Hey, thank you. Echoing Colleen, and I think Sidney also, I think, summed up the purpose of this call really well. It really was just to focus on the hope and the positivity of this situation. We're seeing a lot of programs who we're all still dedicated to supporting young people and making sure that they have caring adult connection in their lives, albeit in new and different ways. So I think it's been a really great opportunity for us to see all of the innovation that is happening, not just on our end, but on the programs that we work with their end as well. So we will, we're continuing to look to the field and the community to inform how we respond and move forward. Everyone on this call shows up for us so that we can show up for young people, and we're excited to continue to do this. We have been sharing a lot of resources lately, and I put up just a brief snippet of these resources here on the screen that you can see. In-house, we are still focusing very much on the elements of effective practice. We're offering our free technical assistance. We also have started weekly virtual connections emails, which are focused on mentoring programs and just, kind of bring one specific topic per week to light in just some quick bullet points that can be directly applied to daily work. So, so we are very much, continuing our service in new ways. We have weekly office hours and every Wednesday. So, we're here if anyone needs us. But we're also really working hard to compile additional resources that we can continue to share out. So my charge to everyone on the phone is if you have resources that you'd like to share that could be beneficial to mentoring programs or nonprofit organizations in general, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, or you can even email us after the fact. We're constantly compiling these and sending them out. You can email them to info@mentoringpittsburgh.org. And really just, help us continue to spread the word about the resources that are available. I think, we're all in this together, and never has there been, more of a need for connection than now. So we're continuing to move that forward, and we're excited for our continued partnerships. Any parting questions or comments, anything for the good of the group before we sign off for the morning? No? All right. Well, thank you all so much for taking a few minutes out of your day this morning. We really appreciate it. We will be sharing this recording online as well. So if you want to go back and see Colleen and her beautiful hair that, we said we all got dressed today, we all showered, so it's a win for the day. So this recording will be online for you to access at a later point. Colleen, am I missing anything?
That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a safe and wonderful day.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.